Have him go do it.
Oh, they took my name tag.
They took
everybody's.
Nobody's gonna know who anybody is.
I think
So, are we everybody sitting up here tonight?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Okay,
there's no
so
reason why we can't.
Mike sits next to you. Can you see him?
Big
ass guy.
Yeah, that's what I
No, Mayor sits here, right? Or, no, wait a minute. I think we all need
Yeah,
to
you're
down
gonna move
one.
down
Oh,
one.
yeah, we're back to normal.
Yeah, we're back to normal.
This is weird.
Because Harry's gotta sit up here. Mike,
Wait, am I back to
where do I
Yeah,
sit? You can go
wherever
back
you
now.
want to be. I don't. Doesn't matter.
We'll take a picture.
You want it?
like this much better, so
I need support on my back, huh? So are we in the right seats then? Because Mike Thomas needs to sit.
Yeah, you
Yeah, but
get
Mike
to be
Dorman
normal.
needs
Dave,
to
move over
Mike
one.
Thomas needs to sit.
Oh, I need to move one more? Yeah, that's.
No.
I got a new
Get
job.
down there. Get down there.
I'm so used to sitting next to him.
side of him.
You are
Musical
more than
chairs.
welcome to take it.
I thought you sat on that side of him.
Oh, thanks, Harry.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What's good?
What happened to it?
This chair,
Looks good to me.
Is that the good one?
somebody will get it.
Mike has it.
That's the good one.
That's the only good one we got. Yeah. Rester. Paint. It smells like paint.
This is
Is his agenda out?
Oh, that was me. I was in here spraying sealer on this, things for the boat ladies on.
How are we online?
Do you want me?
Are
to
we all
print
set?
it?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to begin the council work session for June 7th, 2021. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Thomas, if you would proceed with our agenda.
Certainly, Mr. Owen. The first item is the Kennedy Consolidation Plan. This is a simple subdivision. The applicant is seeking to consolidate two parcels on Leechburg Road. The purpose is to create a large enough lot to construct a detached garage on the newly combined lot. The combined properties are approximately half an acre. Property is zoned single-family residential. This was accepted as complete, as this is a simple subdivision. This was accepted as complete last month by council, and this month staff recommends approval contingent upon the final review of the engineer.
Any discussion? Agenda item.
Second item is the Wilczek Consolidation Plan. The applicant is seeking to consolidate two parcels on Allegheny Place. The combined properties are approximately 3/4 of an acre and are zoned single-family residential. This is also a simple subdivision that was accepted by council last month, and staff also recommends approval contingent upon the final review and approval of the borough engineer.
Discussion on this item. Okay, agenda item.
Thanks, Dave. Item number 3 is the Heckers simple subdivision. Applicant is seeking to subdivide a 6.75 acre parcel on Webster Road into 2 lots. The property currently contains a single-family residence and a commercial business.
Cox Hill Road.
Oh, that was on Webster.
No.
You had Webster on there.
They must live on Webster, and Webster is in there.
Yeah, I think Michael Hecker lives on Webster and the property's on Cox.
Oh, okay. My bad. Okay. The property is zoned NC, Neighborhood Mixed Commercial. The subdivision will cure a non-conforming status of the property in that we have a commercial business and a residence on the same parcel. However, the property is not large enough to meet the bulk regulations for zoning, so it will require a variance. And have they applied for a variance yet, or are they waiting?
We had a ton of correspondence back and forth today, so they'll be on the July zoning hearing board agenda. As this makes its way through council, final approval of this, if there are no issues, will be in July also. So, talking with the property owner, he has this the subdivision, the zoning variances, the demolition, the building a new house. So, there's a lot going on there, but he's going to apply to the zoning hearing board for July.
At this time, this is a simple subdivision, and we're only requesting the council accept the application as complete.
Any discussion? Agenda item.
Item number 4 is a discussion that the staff would like some direction regarding the outdoor seating. So as you know, during the pandemic, a lot of places added outdoor seating. They didn't do that officially. They didn't do it through the proper process. You know, Plum Boro, like many communities, just sort of, looked the other way. We didn't want to prevent people from, being able to make money. However, as we're back to 100% seating capacity in restaurants now, some of these establishments still have these outdoor seating areas set up. They're not permitted. And probably the most important concern about that is, ADA accessibility. And keep in mind that these requirements are state requirements and not borough ordinance requirements.
Discussion.
How many places are still using it? I mean, I know like Pugliano's, they've always had outdoor dining.
Yeah, there are a few that have had outdoor dining, and they did it properly. Although that's not one of them.
Right. Do we have like a ballpark estimate of how many are?
There's probably
not in
only
compliance?
3 or 4,
Handful.
Dave.
4 or 5?
So can we reach out to them and find out what their
Well, that's what
plans
we're
are
asking
for-
for you.
yeah.
Do you want us to
Yes.
do that?
Yeah.
Like, because
Yes.
we don't want to just start saying, shut this down now.
What they
No.
can do is they can start applying for all the necessary permits and the PL, at least get the
If they wanna keep it.
LCB licensing underway and things of that nature, so that.
I know they're
and once
serious too.
Once they start that process, I think, then, you would think that it'd be okay.
Well, our thought, 'cause as we discuss these things in staff, our thought was, to send a letter to some of these places saying, listen, we kind of turned a blind eye to this, but before we do that, we wanted to make sure you guys were all on board with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they should be notified. and-
I think the letter should say
It's gotta
something
be
like,
legal.
if you intend to move forward, continue using a space, here's what you got to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
fine.
help guide them to figure it out, because
Okay.
Yeah,
That
because
does
a
not need to be on the
couple
agenda.
places have some outdoor seating before, but then they've even added more during the COVID.
COVID, yes.
So that's what, the areas that are a real problem, I think, that we want to make sure brought up to some sort of compliance.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
Okay.
Next item.
Item number 5 is the 2021 demolition hearings. As we do each year, we have, well, we don't always have 4, but we have some structures that we believe need to be removed. We do have 4 this year that are recommended by code enforcement, and we have to hold a public hearing as part of that process. Staff would like to request or recommend that we have a public hearing on July 26th at 6 p.m.
Any discussion?
That is a Monday.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Agenda item.
All right. Item
July
number-
26th.
Excuse me. Item number 6 is the Matassa lot line revision. This is actually a reapproval. This was approved by council in November of 2020. All the pertinent information about that approval is in your manager's report, as well as it's been re-uploaded to the agenda packet. But this was something council already approved back in November. The applicant did not get the land development drawing recorded at the county level, so within 90 days, so now we've got to go back and reapprove it. We've done a few of these every once in a while.
Discussion. Agenda item.
Item number 7, under personnel and management, is a cost of living adjustment for a retired police officer. We're pretty much doing one of these a month now, in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? Agenda item.
Item number 8 is an executive session item. It's a memorandum of understanding with the Plum Boro School District. Item number 9 is food trucks. If you'll recall, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I sent out an email to council saying, hey, as we get more and more food trucks in Plum, staff is getting a little bit concerned about 2 issues, or a few issues, I should say, but all of those issues pertain to, resident security and protection and, borough safety issues and borough liability issues as well. As we discussed, I believe what we discussed in that conversation was requiring a proof of certification, county health certification, and proof of insurance, and indemnifying the borough as an additional payee. What we've done is we've developed a JOT form system where applicants can just simply go online, They can fill out their information, upload both of those documents, pay the $25 fee. They can print out a copy of their certificate. We were going to, have it eligible for, it would be January 1 to December 31st. And they can go up and print out their certificate if they want to. But the other nice thing is, since we will build this database online, is that if a code enforcement officer is out or a police officer is out on the weekends and somebody says, hey, do they have their certificate or are they registered? With their mobile device, they'll be able to check that to see if everybody's got an active registration with the borough. And we talked about a $25 annual fee, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So then if that's okay with you, I will work with Dane here and we'll put together an ordinance. And I did upload a copy of the Verona food truck ordinance into your agenda packet just for your, for your review.
And from your understanding, this is something that's becoming pretty consistent across multiple municipalities.
I mean, I think
Either
Mr. Hadley could speak to that.
Safety a concern for the residents?
Yeah, I mean, from what we've dealt with throughout, most of the city and outside of the city, a lot of places are requiring that you definitely show them as a loss or liability, what is it?
Loss payee.
Payee on your insurance. And they also want to see your health department
Right.
permit. I mean, it's not a lot to ask, especially if they're on borough property. You want to make sure that you're covered, and you want to make sure that they're operating lawfully. So
Right, absolutely. And
there's
and
a lot of rogue trucks out there that don't have any of that stuff, and God forbid, something bad happens, and
And that's the part I'm worried about, is them going into these communities that usually
more and more.
call up these trucks. A lot of communities are doing this now, and,
Yeah.
and I think that's great, but what
They're in
happens
our
when one of these
boroughs
rogue trucks,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it goes
they're-
into one of these communities and sells people something that's, not kosher, and now all of a sudden, we got a bunch of sick residents.
And the other thing to even explain more is this would be mainly if they're operating on essentially a borough road or a road that's not owned by a private entity, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if, somebody wants to have a food truck at their house and
Yeah, for
they're
a
in their
graduation
driveway-
party, that's on them.
That's a different, yeah,
Exactly,
that's a
yes,
different
yeah,
story.
yes.
So it's
They
okay.
take the responsibility.
Yes,
of that.
Correct.
So one final thing on this as we prepare the ordinance for this, and that is, so staff had a long discussion about what it means to be on a borough street. And, if there are some housing plans that have, like Rustic Ridge, for example, has a park area that is owned by the homeowners association. So when Rustic Ridge has food trucks, they park on they're not on a borough street, they're on private property, they're on HOA property. There are other communities in Plum that have the similar situation. However, there are some places that, some of the older neighborhoods and just some other neighborhoods that just don't have them that want to do that. They want to pull one in a cul-de-sac, they want to pull a food truck. So we're sort of struggling with how do we write this ordinance, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to have a truck in a traffic lane.
Yeah.
And, but we don't want to say, we think that saying that you cannot be on a public right-of-way is too restrictive, because there really isn't that much of a problem with a food truck being in a
In the
cul-de-sac.
cul-de-sac, which is typically what they do. yeah.
So what we were thinking is that the language, something like, this was the chief's suggestion, that the truck may not be parked in a travel lane.
Okay.
Well, I understand what that, that normally means, but some of these plans, the roads aren't wide enough. They park up against the wedge curb, they're in the travel lane.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, I mean, what are we gonna do about that?
Well-
There's a lot of places that don't have cul-de-sacs, and they do that.
I think you use some type of language like where practically feasible, so that way you're not locked into the rigorous requirement of not being in the travel lane.
impede the flow of traffic or
Right,
something?
something along the lines of where
Yeah.
practically feasible.
I mean,
should-
you're on a
gives you
plan,
the
you
room.
shouldn't be going 100
Because you
mile an hour.
want to be reasonable so that, a neighborhood can have a truck come out and,
Agreed.
put themselves in a place where it's centrally located for the community to go, use it. If you say it can't be in a travel way, you're gonna really, minimize the number
Limit.
of places where these things can go, and that's not the intent of this.
No, it's not, but we're still sort of struggling with the practical
Well, just as an
application of
example,
this.
I was at
when's-
one just last Friday at Edgemead, yeah. And it was in front of a vacant lot, there's no home there, but homes on both sides, but the road was on a straightaway, and there was no problem. They were busy,
Right.
But there was no problem with traffic getting by freely, so I wouldn't see why that would be a problem in that area.
Well, go ahead and put the ordinance together.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the
We'll
proposed
work
language
through
and
it.
figure out how to work with it.
Yeah, I think it would be
There's gonna be
helpful
things
too,
we have to
I think it would be
I would-
helpful too for you guys to have
Well,
conversation with the chief as well.
to get
Okay.
around that, like the HOA thing, can't we put in there that any food truck that's doing any type of selling to the public? That way, if it's on, like in Rustic Ridge, if it's on HOA property, it's still in the borough, so we should still make sure that the health permit and everything
Oh,
else.
no, we
We're
would do
gonna-
that. We would do that. If they're selling, because
So, I mean, that's how we can
they're
word it.
just
Any
driving
type of-
up
any
and
type
selling
of
at the
food
location,
sales,
we still need to make
They
sure
need
that
to
the
have the
people that are buying
permit.
it.
Any type of food
This would not
sales.
apply to a graduation party
Right,
or a specific
because you're not
event.
selling it.
So like, for example, if the Renton Fire Hall last week, or maybe, I think it was just the past weekend, had a food truck
Yesterday,
roundup.
Renton.
Yeah, like, this wouldn't apply to that. That's an event that the Renton Fire Company is sponsoring on their property.
Right.
This wouldn't apply to that. This is just for those times when, like, there's a food truck in Rustic Ridge every single Friday. Some woman, and I don't mean to say that in any negative way, just, I don't know who it is, just
She arranged
scheduled
it.
all
She
this.
arranged it.
I have no idea who it is. The homeowners association did not do this.
Yeah. This is
Like,
on-
there's just trucks going up there. I think that has to be regulated to
Yeah.
the extent
Does
that
the
we're talking about.
homeowners association have
No, the
something
homeowners
to
association
say
isn't
about
doing
it?
anything
I
about
mean,
this.
Don't they have a say? I mean, if they don't want them there.
If
they
they
don't.
wanted to, I guess they could, but they're not.
So they're allowing it to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I think, unless it's a specific, and the ordinance will have to be specific about this, unless it's a specific event sponsored by an entity on their property, including ours, because, we have our own events where we get food trucks. This would apply. Other than that,
Mike, do you guys have a timeline on this? No.
well, that was one of the other things we wanted to get your input on, like, I mean, because we talked about, do we implement this, try and get this implemented like July 1st for half the year. And then we had a conversation about, well, do we only charge $12.50 for the year? I don't know that
Well, but you have
$12
to-
makes
you
a
have to
difference, but.
advertise this.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
yeah, we weren't going to get it for July, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, we were just thinking, like, do we want to get this done this year, or we want to wait until January?
I would say we get the ordinance put in place, but maybe we don't implement the fee portion of it until the following calendar year.
January 2023.
Right.
Just easier, because there's not,
Yep.
they don't, most do not operate
Yeah.
In the
dead
winter.
of the winter. So, some do, but I don't know. It just, because it's the middle of the season, it'd be, and then try to push it all out, it's gonna be.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a hard time getting,
Yeah, how do we notify everybody anyway?
Yeah.
well, it would just be sort of, as
things
people,
going on.
yeah, when the food truck's up in Rustic Ridge and the police are up there and they say, hey, you registered, there's gonna have to be some sort of grace period, like, hey, listen, by January 1, you
You
need to
gotta
be
have this in
registered.
place. And we could also develop a
We can, we're
communication to
gonna
put out.
advertise it.
Right, we
Yeah.
could put out a communication
We can put it in
to,
the newspaper,
Yep.
that, we're-
Mike D's gonna write an article on it.
Oh, there you go.
Plum bans food trucks, that's what
No,
we're
don't.
saying. I'm just kidding, Mike, come on, just kidding.
Okay, all right. What do you say?
he said, I'll talk to you tonight.
All right, so we will have something for you for next month on that. Item number 10 is the infamous feral cat ordinance. It's a little.
Has it been 3?
As we call it, the mayor's ordinance?
Yeah, I don't know, I'd say, I don't know if it's 3, but
It's Harry's song.
it might be close to 2.
Harry's song.
Harry song. So anyway, the thing that was holding us up was trying to find an entity that would work with us on the TNR program and act as a animal control officer for us. So, and I will give the mayor some props. He did actually help us find this group. And so we do have a group now that's willing to work with us. The group is called Frankie's Friends. They are in Parnassus down in New Kensington, just a few minutes away.
Okay.
Their prices are very reasonable. So they're very happy to do this and partner with us. So the ordinance is in your agenda packets, the red line version. The ordinance, when we originally were talking about it, was a much more all-encompassing ordinance dealing with all types of animals. If you remember, while ago, we talked about just scaling this down to deal just specifically with feral cats at this point. So I've taken everything out other than the feral cat language. So that, and it has been advertised and would be available for adoption next week. By the way, that's next Wednesday.
Right. Okay, any discussion? Mayor?
Is our
just
next
happy to
council,
see it
is our
come
council
up.
meeting Wednesday? Council meeting's Wednesday.
Okay, agenda item.
Item number 11 is also an executive session item to discuss a lease agreement with the Plum Community Library. Item number 12 is a coal tar ban. So in your agenda packet, there's a copy of a resolution and an ordinance. The resolution is from Oakmont, the ordinance is from Fox Chapel. Both communities, and a number of communities have adopted these coal tar bans. Some have done it, most have done it by resolution, some have done it by ordinance. If you got a chance to read my manager's report, the concern that staff has with the ordinance is an enforcement one. It has nothing to do with whether or not we agree or disagree with banning it or whether or not this is a harmful substance or not. The reality of the situation is that, a lot of the uses of this product, even the homeowners themselves that are having the work done aren't even aware that that's being used. So I don't know how on earth we would enforce this. And I'm always leery about having a law in the books that we can't enforce, because that always opens the door for, oh, well, you don't enforce this one, why are you enforcing that one? But we do recommend a resolution forbidding borough projects to use it, and,
Yeah, that's good.
and making sure that from a public safety standpoint, from a PR standpoint, we're making residents aware of the dangers of using this substance.
Yeah, I mean, this started going on actually in the late 70s, early 80s, when coal tar became a widely used product for seal coating parking lots and driveways. And it's made from, coal tar, like it says here in Mike's agenda, but it burns you. I don't know how, I mean, I did this for years when coal tar was the only thing available. And I looked like a lobster. You burn like it's a chemical burn, like you're in the sun too long. But it's a chemical burn, you peel, it's bad. So as soon as they came out with an alternative, an asphalt-based thing that doesn't smell, I mean, you can smell this a mile off. And every time it gets hot, for the next year after they apply it, you can smell it again, just like they just did it again. It stinks to high heaven, and it's a chemical smell that, I don't know if anybody ever used to do coat tie walls with creosote. That stuff burn you, just getting on your skin. Well, that's airborne is twice as bad as that is. So it is a problem, and they do have many, many other products now that are just as good. I mean, the argument was all the time, oh, they're not as good as coal tar lasting on the asphalt. Well, now they are. So there's no more argument, so I agree 100% with the borough should not allow any of our projects to be done with that on it, so.
Is the resolution strong enough from a legal perspective to prevent someone from coming in and
No.
using it?
It's essentially advisory. Now, you can do whatever you want with your own projects, but if some resident
Is
comes
that why
in-
Fox Chapel went with the ordinance?
Yeah, but again, there's the enforcement issue that Mike's talking about.
Well, but, okay, and that's an issue, but, so, again, I'm thinking back to, the days of the injection well, where we had no such ordinance in place, and then someone wanted to come in and do something, we couldn't stop them because we didn't have an ordinance. Here we are, we have the opportunity to put it in place to stop someone from coming in and doing something that we don't want them to do. Why are we leaning towards resolution? I get the enforcement part, Mike, but I don't want to be in a position where we don't have the right vehicle in place to prevent someone from doing something that's harmful to the residents. I'm more in line with, I think, what Fox Chapel's done with the ordinance than I am the resolution. If we can't stop someone from coming and doing something, I don't want to be in a position where you say, well, you can't stop them, Dave.
And that's a very good point. You could take the position of, hey, if we find out about it, we will enforce our ordinance. And maybe that does protect someone who says, my neighbor is using this on their driveway and it's causing me a major inconvenience.
I mean, the guy across the street from me has a small mechanics, shop. Nice guy, but he gets the guy every year, and he does coal tar. And I'm allergic. I'm allergic to it. I did it for how many years? Now I'm allergic to it.
Right.
And I start getting like a rash all, it's like I was back out doing it again, and I'm just in my yard cutting grass. You know, it's weird. It really is, it is a bad thing. And just for an example, if somebody like, and they have never done this to this point, the Sampson Group goes out there on 286, decides somebody's gonna come and do all their properties with coal tar. Do you realize that with the people around that, the smell they would get? And they're in a valley, and everybody around there would, I mean, it's not only carcinogenic for your body, it just stinks to high heaven for the longest time, you know?
I'm in favor of doing the ordinance. That's
Me
that's
too.
where I'm at.
Me too. And we don't have to worry about
Yeah, I
the,
think it's a good
Right.
point.
of enforcing it.
Right,
because
I mean, when
it'll-
somebody.
It'll enforce itself.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's right.
I like that.
Well, I mean, and it is a tool we have to use if we need it, and if, like Dave said, in the future, you know, if something, God forbid, something like that would happen, we could go to, you know, if we put an ordinance out, if they're doing something with their property, they gotta check the ordinance, right? Check and see if there's an ordinance. We could advertise it, we have this now. You know?
So we have the one from Fox Chapel. Can we work to put our own ordinance in place and
We
get it
can.
advertised and?
Absolutely. But I just, so the,
I'm gonna need Jen to let it know.
yes, we can.
Okay, I think that's our preference. So we can probably work to get that advertised in July? Is that reasonable, or do we need more time?
Well, I'd prefer to work with one of the committees on some of the language before we.
Okay, that's fine.
And I don't know what your preference is, public safety, public works, whatever, you know, whatever your preference is.
It's kind of blurs the lines between public safety and roads, equipment, and grounds. It kind of, what do you guys think? Where would you rather see it?
Public safety, probably.
Public safety?
Yeah.
You're good?
I would think it's public safety.
Okay.
Especially after what Dave said.
Yeah, I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll schedule a meeting with the Public Safety Committee to go over this, to work on this. We'll use the Fox Chapel one as our foundation for our own ordinance.
You know, quite frankly, it's cheaper now than a lot of the other products, so that's why the contractors use it. It has really nothing to do with, they don't care about their installers or anything, they just do it because it's there, you know, so.
All right, very well. Next item.
Okay. Holiday Park Phase 2 storm sewer bids. In your agenda packets, under item 13 is a number of items, the first one of which is the bid tab for this project. The low bidder for the project was Quigley, and Dave, this is that project you asked me about a while ago, and Dave. So the low bid was $368,965. This project is being done through a grant that's administered through the COG, through the Turtle Creek Valley COG. The grant amount that staff was able to get was $150,000. The remaining portion of $218,965 would have to come out of the borough capital funds, whether that's the bond fund, whether that's fund balance, or whether that's some of the aid funds that we receive from the federal government.
Right.
That has yet to be determined, and we do have to schedule, Mike Whitaco and I have been talking about, and I think he should have sent out an email to the Finance Committee members about trying to set up a time to go over the audit and to talk about the
get
funding
one.
for these projects.
I don't believe I got one.
I haven't seen it.
He hasn't sent it out yet? Okay. I'm sure that'll be coming out shortly, because the audit is done, and they're ready to have the draft
Okay.
meeting with the Finance Committee. So at that point, we'll just, in working with Finance Committee, we come up with a plan for all of these projects. But at this point, so the bid was actually performed advertised and collected by the COG. What we normally do in these COG bid projects is we send them a letter saying, yes, you have our authorization to move forward with this project, and we will commit to the $219,000. This was something we anticipated this year. This is not a new project.
Right.
Just wanted to put in front of your eyes again to make sure that you're aware of this, so that when you see the $220,000 price tag next month or the following month, when we put this whole funding stream strategy together, that you're not, that you don't have sticker shock. This is phase 2 of a planned three-phase project. We were denied funding for phase 3 on this one.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Any discussion?
Why were we denied funding? For
I think because
Any
they
special
funded
reason?
phases 1 and 2, and they were, they want to, they got to spread the money around. They funded, we've got $300,000 on this project, Dave? Was Phase 1 150?
100, so we have 250,000 in grants. We just weren't funded for Phase 3.
Yeah.
We're not ready for Phase 3, we're just going to reapply in the next cycle.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
we have other avenues to go for some funding.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we're working on engineering of Phase 3, because it's a project that has been a problem for a number of years, it has to happen. So we'll get the application in, hopefully get funded in the next round.
Yeah, okay, great.
The last item on the agenda this evening is an executive session item to discuss the Center Beach stormwater mitigation project.
Okay. I did want to bring up one item relative to the community garden. Tim Sandstrom from the YMCA board contacted me about the discussion that he had with Miss Carpin, who came to the council meeting
months back.
maybe a month or two ago.
Yeah.
And YMCA is willing to work with the borough and utilize their land to support the community garden, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They've got all kinds of space there, and that's something that the board's going to bring to the greater YMCA to get approval for it. He's reached out to Denise Carpin, and they're talking. They're just wondering what type of support can the borough provide, probably financially, in order to kind of get it up and running. We don't know what that dollar amount might be, but as they start investigating what they would need to, get it up and running, they'll come back to us and let us know. I just wanted you guys to be aware of it, because it was something that I think generated quite a bit of interest from folks. I had some people stop and ask me, "Oh my gosh, you guys going to start a community garden? That's great."
Yeah.
But the fact that we could do it at the YMCA, I think is even better. So,
They have more room.
yeah,
Sure.
absolutely, yeah. Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to make a statement before we close for the evening? Okay, seeing none, we're adjourned for executive session. Thank you.